It's a surprise cabinet reshuffle that could well determine the legacy or seal the fate of France's under-fire president. Elected in 2012, thanks to endorsements that went from the communists to the centrists, Socialist François Hollande had so far hedged his bets with rival visions and ideologies represented under the same tent within the same cabinet. But a weekend of attacks against the boss from firebrand economy minister Arnaud Montebourg proved the last straw for a president accused from his left flank of selling out to Germany on austerity to ward off deflation and kickstart growth. Will Hollande stick to his guns? And will he and his like-minded Prime Minister Manuel Valls have the needed support to stay their social democrat course when Valls announces his new team on Tuesday? Also, what does Hollande's moment of truth mean for a Europe embroiled in the same argument over how to renew with growth? Today, in the France 24 debate, we're looking at Hollande's reshuffle, and with us, French Socialist Member of Parliament, Philippe Cordery.
Hello.
Welcome back to the France 24 debate. Welcome back as well to Agnès Michel of the French Green Party.
Hello.
You were a member of the previous coalition, but not of the government that was formed 4 months ago by a new Prime Minister.
We weren't in the Valls 1.
Valls 1, Valls 2 coming up. He's a German entrepreneur who hangs his hat in France. Jakob Hessler, co-founder of big data company Tiny Clues. Thank you for being with us again. And thanks as well to France24.com editor-in-chief Sylvain Attal. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter. Our hashtag F24debate. The French cabinet certainly hit with a Monday morning surprise. The man himself, though, François Hollande, who in a driving rain stuck to schedule with a speech in Brittany commemorating the French resistance. Pundits quick to draw a parallel between the weather and the political storm inside of the ruling Socialist Party. Hollande's outgoing economy minister pulling no punches when Arnaud Montebourg addressed reporters just a few hours ago.
Je me suis battu pour convaincre inlassablement.
I fought tirelessly to convince President Hollande. I sent him letters, both publicly and privately, imploring him not to subject our country to excessive measures that risk damaging our economy. Today, even if I haven't managed to convince him, the results are conclusive. France is at a standstill and unemployment continues to rise dangerously.
Et le chômage continue sa dangereuse progression.
He talked about the sinking of the French economy. Arnaud Montebourg pulling no punches. What's your reaction to those statements?
Well, it's not a good day for the left in France, and not a good day for French people, I think, because what people are waiting for is the results, and an economic policy has been sort of launched and set up and voted and adopted by the Parliament, which is the Responsibility Pact, which François Hollande presented and which we voted in the Parliament in the spring, and that's what we should now be implementing. So I really do not understand why the debate is coming now again. And I think it's more an attitude that has been sanctioned more than anything else, because the debate exists inside the Parliament. We have debates inside the group, and it's perfectly normal to have these discussions. But once the debate has been closed and once it's been voted, I think what we need now is to implement. What people are waiting outside is for results, it's for unity, it's for clarity. And I think that's what really we need now.
Do you agree with that very blunt prognosis from the outgoing economy minister?
No, because I mean, we have, of course, a very difficult economic environment, which is partly the problems of France and number one, the competitiveness problem, which we're trying to address also in this responsibility pact, but also on the European level. And measures are taken. The government and the President of the Republic has addressed the European Union to try and change European policy in terms of growth. to have sort of more growth on the European level, to compensate what we do not have because the demand is very low on the national level. And I think so if we look at, I mean, the whole pillars of this responsibility pact, which is more competitiveness, which is reduction, of course, of the debt, which is necessary for future generations, and more growth, it's the three elements which are part of the policy which the President of the Republic has reaffirmed again in Le Monde a few days ago.
Are you surprised?
And that's the line.
Are you surprised at this chain of events, this firebrand speech blasting the German Chancellor over the weekend, and then now this second dissolution of the...
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because Arnaud Montebourg was a very good minister of the economy and had all its place in the government. The government needs to have all the different tendencies of the left inside, and I hope the next government will be also plural and have the debate inside, because we need every personality is important for this government to succeed.
And yes, Michel, are you surprised by this public display of disaffection?
I was surprised about the moment, yes, because we didn't see it coming. But actually, the Pact of Responsibility, as it was called, already was creating a lot of debate within the Socialist Party, and not to mention the rest of the left. And actually, what it shows is that, well, there is a good news, which is the increasing of debate, public debate, on the options that were elected and not the one that were presented during the campaign of President Hollande. And
so you're saying Hollande campaigned as a socialist but is running as a social democrat?
Yes, yeah, that's a fact, actually. No one can deny the difference between the two. But the good thing is there is a debate which can lead to more democracy, more democratical debate. The bad news is that it seems that this debate is not taken into account by the president and its prime minister, and it's like Cécile Defleur said something like
the head of the Green Party.
The Green Party, yeah, the chief of, not the chief of the Green Party, the former
housing minister. Yeah,
sorry.
She's not any longer the head of the head party.
Yeah, but the fact is that we are seeing through this debate and the limit of this debate, also the limits of the Fifth Republic institution, with a very solitary president and sometimes a prime minister, sometimes fighting with the president. But this loneliness is very disturbing about doing politics, doing debates, and what we see is the limit of that, and we hope, because in ecologists, we are for the Sixth Republic, and we hope that this crisis can lead to something into the institutions.
All right, we'll look at the long term in a moment. Let me ask you, Sylvain Tal, to rebound on what Agnès was just saying. Is this crisis more about the president himself or his maverick economy minister, who's always been known for his outbursts?
Well, you know, I think it's a posture. It's a political. It's all political calculation, and that's it. The thing is that France is in a very poor economic situation. Everyone agrees on that, and people like Montebourg or Hamon have understood that no economic policy will bring results, unfortunately, before the next presidential election. So they're making the calculation that Valls and Hollande are going to fail anyway, even though they're on the good path, even though because I was struck by the fact that Montebourg was lying. I mean, he said that the poor people in France were hit by tax increases. It's totally wrong. I mean, we're talking now of tax cuts for the lower incomes. In France, more than half of French households are not paying any income tax. So you cannot say that people are stuck with. Of course, there were tax increases with Hérault and Hollande, the first Hollande's government. But now we're talking of a new policy. It's not at all the policy that Valls is conducting. So it's absolutely wrong. There's a lot of mauvaise foi. I mean, from
bad faith.
Bad faith, yes, of course. So it's not a question of Montebourg was agreed with Valls on this policy 4 months or 5 months ago. There's no place now for political debate or inside the government. The political debate ended with Valls' speech in front of the National Assembly, where, for example, what they call the frondeurs, the backbenchers from the Socialist Party, didn't vote against Valls. So Valls had its majority.
And that brings up the next point.
So they agreed on at least staying neutral and not putting Valls in difficult situation.
All right, but that brings up the next point. Just one comment from a viewer. Will François Hollande get anything right? He's been accused of being wishy-washy in the past. In this case, he's taken a stand against those who are speaking out within his own cabinet with this dissolving of the government. Now, will he have the votes, though, to
I think this is
get a vote of confidence?
I think this is problematic. We'll see, because we never know how people will vote in front of the new Valls government. We're going to see who is going to be in this government and who is not going to be in this government. But the alternative is very clear. It's backing Valls, or we're going to have a dissolution and probably a victory of the right.
Dissolution meaning dissolving the whole of Parliament.
Dissolving the Assembly, the National Assembly. It's as simple as that. People are forgetting that the Fifth Republic gives a lot of power to the president, but it's still a parliamentary system. If you don't have a majority at the parliament, if you don't have the majority at the National Assembly, of course you can always taking advantage of the constitution that allows, for example, the prime minister to block, and for example, the budget, for example, which would be the next political momentum. He can, if he has not a majority, for example, he can use the 49.3, which is the constitution's.
He can use presidential decrees
and says, if you're not voting against me, which means new elections, the budget is adopted. He can always do that. But I mean, considering the situation, the very difficult situation of France, it's very problematic that the government can stand for more than 2 years in this kind of situation without a majority in the Assembly. So I think that in the scenario of the dissolving the National Assembly, if not for the next months, but in the next year, for example, is highly probable.
Highly probable.
I think so.
All right. Before I ask Philippe Cordery about it, let me ask you, Agnès Michel. The Greens were coalition partners, as we said at the outset, in the very first government formed by François Hollande. If it's the same prime minister with, how would you say it?
It's the same politic, and we didn't agree on the first one.
Will you give a vote of confidence to François Hollande in Parliament?
About the vote of confidence, it depends on what he says. But if there is no change in the politic, I think that now is the moment to stop backing. And
what do you mean stop backing?
Does that mean abstaining, or does that mean voting against?
That's important.
Well, I wouldn't say what my party will decide, because I'm not the one who decides, because we are not presidentialists.
What's your personal opinion?
At least it will be how do you say
abstention.
Abstention.
You won't vote yes, that's for certain. Philippe Cordery, are the votes there for a vote of confidence and for the next budget?
The votes are there, and a great majority of the Socialist group will vote in favour of the
because there were some 40 backbenchers who need convincing last time around.
Yeah, and
if they're abstaining, their vote is not counting.
But now the vote, I mean, they abstained, they didn't vote against, which is not exactly not the same. But also, that decision has been taken now. We have the responsibility pact. It's been decided, so now we need to implement it. And we're seeing the first results already. Sylvain Attal was just mentioning it. 4.2 million households paying less taxes this year. That's more purchasing power. That's more growth. That's exactly what Arnaud Montebourg or you are asking for.
No, we are not asking for more growth, actually. We are asking for more employees, which is not exactly the same thing.
Which is jobs, huh? Growth is jobs also.
No, that's your equation. That's not the one that said the economists, actually.
But also for all the households on low revenue, we have an increase of the school allowance. They are actually measures for the poorer households of this country, which we're seeing the results now, and we're not discussing that. We're discussing the next Congress.
Let me ask.
There's no austerity policy in France. No one can say that. It's totally wrong to say that there's austerity policy.
Let me ask Jakob Hessler here.
Look and see what happened in Portugal, Greece, and that was austerity.
I could magically produce the answer, but I'll try my best.
Here, let me ask you: do you get the sense from, as a businessman, that there is a change of tack on the part of the government, and that it's working? We've seen that the unemployment rate has risen. Do you get a sense that there is a better business environment?
I think it's very hard to say because the time lags between structural measures that we're talking about and the results of it is long. And it's longer than the usual attention span, both of business people and of anyone else in politics. So what can be observed is a more business-friendly discourse and some measures that in the past have shown to favor, more growth or, reduction, more competitiveness. Is it enough? The difficulty is that much of it also is a question of sentiment, of confidence, and of whether people believe. Now, one positive sign would be that France still borrows at 100 basis points cheaper than both the US and the UK, actually. So some people, at least in financial markets, tend to believe that something in the midterm, at least some markets tend to believe, will work in that way. But I would tend to agree that we're not in a strict austerity measures. And I think personally, as an entrepreneur, the fact that we should highlight even more is the fact that we need more deregulation. We need more of actually some of these maybe clumsily put forward points by Arnaud Montebourg about the regulated professions. Creating growth, for example, in the housing sector could be done more easily. You can deregulate. That is places where you can both stimulate demand and actually the supply side. But on the other hand, the structural reforms about the state cannot continue to live beyond its means. They just need to take place also. And it's very hard.
We're talking about 50 billion euros of belt tightening in 3 years. Is that enough?
It's a start. Let's get some momentum going and let's get a start. So far in France, nothing has ever been done. No conservative nor any other has done. I mean, look at how the debt exploded as well under right-wing presidents before. So let's get it a start. Let's start structural reforms about the role of the state, about all these things, and then we'll see.
They have started.
It's funny because this morning I talked to Val's advisor, economic advisor, and to my amazement, he was saying that yes, he was saying exactly the same thing as Montebourg. He said yes, we have to obtain from the European Commission more time. He said yes, we have to give more pouvoir d'achat,
purchasing power, spending power
to France. And I said, well, isn't Valls was saying a few months ago that the investment, the supply side was the problem? And he said, yes, so I understood that Valls wanted to not to choose between supply and demand, but doing both. And then he admitted that the problem in France is that when you give purchasing power to the households, then they're sparing it. I mean, the problem in France that the people have no confidence.
Has the highest savings rate in France in Europe. It's gone up to 16%.
People squirrel their money under the mattress.
Not the lower revenues. The lower revenues have a tendency to spend.
All right,
to a certain extent, but I mean the problem is that you don't see the equivalent consumption when you're giving.
All right, we're talking about political time. We're talking about the time it takes to actually turn an economy. About the time it takes to turn an economy actually around, and then there's the perception of it all. One viewer saying the conservative UMP party and the National Front, the far right especially, must be savoring the disunity and chaos within Hollande's administration. We'll pick up on that point when we come back. You're watching the France 24 debate.